Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Security Innovation Challenge informational webinar. My name is Laura Murphy, and I'm the Communications Director at TechConnect, which is a division of Advanced Technology International. And TechConnect hosts the challenge that we're talking about today, the Security Innovation Challenge, along with our partner, the Homeland Security Technology Consortium, which is also known as HS Tech. And I'll be your MC today, and we're just going to learn from a few of the challenge experts you see here today. They're also judges, and they're going to speak with you about how you can create a compelling entry, how you can earn a chance to pitch this fall and possibly win your part of the prize money. We'll also learn a little bit more about the HS Tech Consortium itself and how you could engage with them and the value of participating in this challenge that they're putting on. So before we get started, I just want to remind you that if you have any questions at all throughout the webinar, you can add them into the questions section on the GoToWebinar control panel. And we're going to get to as many of those as possible at the end of the presentation. So fire away. If it's something specific, that's fine. If it's something more general, hopefully we answer it, but we'd love to see any question you have. So to get the ball rolling, I'd like to welcome my colleague, Jonathan Yakasha, who will tell us about the operations of the challenge. So Jonathan, I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Laura. Good afternoon, everyone. As Laura said, my name is Jonathan Yakasha. I'm the Senior Manager for Open Innovation Programs with TechConnect, and I'll be telling you basically the overview of the challenge, what the challenge is looking for, how to go about creating that, hopefully, winning response, and details like that. And as Laura said, looking forward to your questions. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and move on. So what is the challenge looking for? Well, the challenge is looking for innovations in identity management. Now, we recognize that that is a fairly broad umbrella term. Some ideas within identity management that you might want to consider include pattern recognition software, be it for facial, object, speech, or voice. If you've got a different kind of pattern recognition software that fits within identity management, we would love to hear about it. Real-time analytics, cybersecurity platforms, data harmonization software. We've got all of this data. It would be great to have a way to collate all that data into a comprehensive 360-degree view of a person or an object. Artificial intelligence or machine learning innovations, those would be great too. It's not just software though. So if you've got a brand new sensor or scanner or imaging system, those would definitely be within scope of the challenge. Because we are dealing with lots of data, it's important to have privacy where it is necessary. So privacy enabled or privacy centric solutions are definitely within scope as well. The list that you see here is not intended to be exhaustive. So if you have an identity management solution that isn't on this list, we would still welcome you to submit a response, and we would love to hear from you. So really, who should participate? I hope that one of the takeaways from the previous list was that we are interested in solutions from both hardware manufacturers as well as software developers. Likewise, if you're a systems engineering firm and you have great capability of taking a couple of different components from disparate vendors and creating an omnibus solution that works in identity management, we would still love to hear from you. One thing that I would like to say is that we're interested in dual use case technologies. So whether that's a technology that starts off in a government sphere and then with some work becomes a civilian application, or the reverse, starting off in the civilian world and with some additional hardening may becomes a government tool, that would be great as well. So technologies that can fit both of those spheres would definitely be of interest. So how do you go about submitting a response? Your first step is to visit the challenge page. If you're here today, I'm going to assume that you have already done so. If you haven't, the URL is up on your screen right there. That is going to be your starting point. At the bottom half of the page, you'll see a button that's labeled Submit Innovations. Click on that. That'll take you to the online response form. And in a subsequent slide, I'll talk about what kinds of information you're going to need to be able to provide in your response. Once you submit your response, the response will be evaluated, and we're going to invite finalists to pitch at Defense Tech Connect in September later this year. And I'll talk more about the conference as well in a subsequent slide. Very, very important. Submission deadline, June 30th, 2022. So you've got about 2 weeks or so to prepare your response. That may seem like a too short of a window in order to prepare your response, but rest assured it's not. And when I talk about what to include in your response, I hope you'll see that you do in fact have plenty of time to craft your response. So what do you want to include in your response? As I said, click on that Submit Innovations button and you will be taken to the complete online response form. So you'll be able to see all of the questions that are going to be asked of you. What kinds of questions are you going to see? First and foremost, contact information. Obviously, that's going to be very important so that we can reach out to you, hopefully to let you know that you've been selected as a finalist for this challenge. A description of your technology. Tell us how mature your technology is. For value proposition, what makes your technology valuable? Is what makes it better than alternatives that are out there? Do you have any awards or contracts that you can tell us about? Tell us a little bit about how you're marketing your technology. High-level summary of your executive team, that sort of thing. Really, it's giving us a good description of your organization and your technology. Now, obviously, this is an online response form. If you would like to build your response offline so that you can craft it and tweak it and make it just perfect, you can do that. At the top of that online response form, you'll see a Word doc template that you can use. It replicates all of the questions in the online form, and then that way you can build your response offline, talk to your colleagues if you need to, and then you can paste all of that information into the online form. Just make sure you do it before the deadline of June 30th. One thing that I will note is in the online form, you're really talking only about 1,000-ish words for your online form. So it's about what, 2, maybe 3 pages worth of content. That's what I meant when I said you've got about 2 weeks to create your response, and I think 2 weeks for 2 to 3 pages is definitely doable. One of the questions that I get asked quite a bit is, what kind of information do I need to include in my response? What makes a good response? So I've compiled it basically down to those 6 bullet points that you see on the right. The first one is not a suggestion, it is a requirement, non-confidential information. Anything that you put into your response has to be non-confidential in nature. Don't put anything in there that you don't feel comfortable sharing outside of a confidentiality agreement. And the reason for that is very simple. It's for the protection of everybody involved. That includes you, Tech Connect, the consortium, everybody. Nobody can be accused of misusing or misappropriating IP if none has changed hands. The next one, high level. As I said, you've got about 1,000-ish words to talk about your technology. So you're not going to go into novel length detail about what your technology and what your technology is and what it can do. You want to keep it at that high level. Conversely, you also don't want to go too high level. Don't come in with a response that says, I'm an expert in this, give me a call. Too short and too long, neither one of them is particularly persuasive. So you want to strike that balance between giving too little information and too much information. Next, descriptive, engaging, and compelling. Everything that you include in your response should be one of those 3 things, descriptive, engaging, and compelling. You want the judges to get done reading your response and saying, I've got a great understanding of what they want to do, what their technology is, and I see how they could provide a benefit to our clients. That's really what you want them to come away with. And lastly, tightly focused. I imagine that some, maybe even most of you, have multiple different technologies that might fit within the scope of identity management. So if you're submitting a response for technology A and use case A, focus exclusively on technology A. Don't try to include other components that are ancillary to or separate from technology A. Just focus on technology A. Conversely, if you have an omnibus technology that, an omnibus system that relies on multiple underlying technologies, your focus is going to be a little bit different. You're not going to focus on the individual technologies. You're going to talk about how that unified system works and what it can do in this particular situation. So figure out where your focus is and keep your focus exactly on that particular level. I like to describe a response as an introduction, because really that's what it is. You're introducing your organization, your technology to the evaluators. And I liken it to an introduction at a dinner party. You want to present all the really good, interesting, cool, quite frankly, bits and pieces about your organization and your technology, because you want the person that's on the other side of that conversation to say, you know what, I want to learn more about that person, about that technology. And that's really what the finalist pitch is going to be. It's, hey, we want to hear more about you. So if you go into crafting your response with those 6 bullet points in mind, I think you'll do very well when it comes to the evaluations. So we've talked about what the challenge is and how you craft your response. The natural question is, well, what's in it for me? Right at the top of the list, there's a $25,000 non-dilutive prize pool available for finalists. On the non-financial side, there is the opportunity, as you know, to pitch at Defense Tech Connect. In the room for those pitches will be representatives from industry, from investment opportunities, and from the government. And government representatives may be everything from the federal government on down to municipalities. So you're going to have a really good mix of individuals listening to you when you pitch. Obviously, there is the potential for membership in the Homeland Security Technology Consortium, which Ari and Michael will be talking about in just a little bit. So that's a good opportunity right there. And more broadly, there is networking opportunities across a great range of technical domains at Defense Tech Connect. For those of you who have never attended Defense Tech Connect, you're looking at people attending who represent material science, medical technology, energy, transportation, defense, a number of different technologies that are all going to be here and all quite literally under one roof. So you're going to have the opportunity to rub elbows and talk to a bunch of different people that you may never have been exposed to before, who may have an interest in your particular technology. So that is some of the incentives for you to consider responding. And I really hope that you do. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for you. And with that in mind, I will just say thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. My name, once again, is Jonathan Yakasha with ATI, and I'll turn it over to Ari and Michael to tell you about the consortium.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Just a reminder for everyone, for audience members, don't forget to add any questions that you may have to the section in the control panel labeled questions. You can do that anytime, and we'll get to them at our earliest convenience during the call. So next, we're going to actually hear from Ari Schuler. He's the chairman of the executive committee for the Homeland Security Technology Consortium, also known as HS Tech. So Ari, we'll let you take it away.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you, Jonathan. I want to thank everyone today for your participation and interest in our Security Innovation Challenge for 2022. If you're not familiar, our 138-member consortium was formerly known as the Border Security Technology Consortium. We'll talk in a bit about why. We consist of large and small businesses, medium, and we emphasize not including academic institutions and nonprofits as well. Traditional innovators, including and nonprofits. We realized that, and perhaps from my own experience working at DHS and US Customs, they're really on border security and homeland security. They're intrinsically connected. And so as a result, we rebranded effective May 9th to the Homeland Security Technology Consortium so that our members could bring our intellectual and industry power up against some of the toughest challenges for the agency. Our intent in sponsoring this challenge in partnership with ATI and Tech Connect is to see what innovative solutions are out there for identity management. As you heard from Jonathan, it's a very, very wide scope, and there is always opportunity for improvement over the capabilities deployed today by the government. Additionally, I have seen firsthand, both in the government and out of the government, the value that these prize challenges can bring, both in terms of direct monetary benefit, but as Jonathan mentioned, as well, the indirect benefit of showcasing your technology and getting interest from a variety of different industry and public sector potential sponsors. We're really excited by this challenge. We think it's going to open up an area that is ripe for additional innovation and disruption. And I'm very, very interested to see what you submit to us and where we go from here. I'll now turn it over to Michael, our executive director, who will give you further details on the challenge and the consortium.
Thanks so much, Ari. So as Ari said, the Homeland Security Technology Consortium Executive Director, Michael Doherty, will join us next to share a little bit more about the details of what HS Tech is looking for, why they stood up the challenge, and you know, how you can best appeal to them in their judging pool.
Laura, have you got my screen?
I do, yep.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks everyone. Thank you, Ari, and it's a pleasure to be with you all today and to be with our partners from Tech Connect to discuss this challenge. I would first like to talk a little bit about HS Tech. You've heard a little bit from Jonathan and from Ari. We're 138 member companies, academics, nonprofits, formed to collaborate with the Department of Homeland Security on pilots and prototypes to support DHS operators. With any consortium that is working with other transaction authority, the intention of those other transaction efforts is to give easy access to innovators. So technology providers who don't traditionally contract with the government can come in and share innovations with government and to run rapid pilots and prototypes without necessary reliance on the FAR. FAR contracting can be difficult for a variety of reasons. It can be very slow. It can be sort of OBE by the time you finally get around to a contract releasing. And it's sometimes extremely helpful for smalls and non-traditionals to be able to work inside another transaction consortium because you're there with other companies and other entities like academics that are small, medium, and large. So from a business development perspective and from just a sort of a good business practice, it's not, it would be a very good idea for lots of non-traditionals to be looking to consortia, not necessarily just ours, but to look up those OT consortia that are out there in the Fed Civ domain or in the DoD domain and ask yourself whether or not you would like to participate in those consortia. The cost of entry for most consortia is very low. It's not a barrier to entry. The membership dues can be nearly free, just above free, $500, $1,000, but it's in that range so that your ability to go in and to see what's happening and to collaborate with government through consortia can be very easy for you to do. The attempt to streamline process, to maximize partnering, and to, of course, it still remains a competitive process. It does lead to better and faster, more innovative research and development, as well as pilots and prototyping. So we're going to go on to the challenge. I want to say a couple of words getting into it is, you know, as Jonathan explained, I think Ari mentioned it as well. The intention here is to be at a very broad scope for identity management. We're not here trying to merely focus on one particular area because we know that the innovation really goes across many different parts of the department require innovation. Identity management is the kind of thing that can be used in multiple departments and multiple components. So for that reason, we pitched it at the identity management level. We originally discussed maybe we ought to do this just for biometrics or something like that. but we actually settled on identity management because we thought we would see more innovation and more players. So as we look at it, we're not trying to compete or to conflict with anything that's being done by DHS S&T. They are working on biometrics. They've got a couple of LRBAAs where they're looking at aviation screening at speed and trying to do that kind of curb to gate biometrics identity management activity. They're also working on biometric devices at the current time. And biometrics can certainly be a part of this submission, but again, our intention wasn't to come into conflict with anything going on at S&T, but merely to look at more. And so the more innovation we see coming in and the more innovation that could potentially answer questions from multiple components of DHS, not just in the passenger environment, but a bunch of other arenas, we're very interested in that. I don't usually read slides, but I do think that there may be some folks who are coming in on the phone. When we think about identity management in the federal space, what are we looking for? Secure access to systems and installations. There are always PIV cards. How do we manage human capital? How do we do customer service in the COVID era? With the administration of benefits and case management being persistent needs across much of government in different components, how are things? We're kind of in the post-COVID era. We're seeing a lot of folks who are trying to basically do that traditional customer service online. So offsite workforces and an increase in online interactions or transactions between government and the public is becoming sort of the way that we see movement in identity management. So an increased need for offsite access to systems, privacy controls, remote collaboration, mission delivery, all of these are going to remain static priorities across the federal government. The need for identity assurance, for event management, for information protection logging, physical access, and of course ICAM, those are going to remain basic and central to security. Federal entities, while they do all these good things and do all this public interaction and this increasing amount of sort of online engagement, have to continue protecting PII, customer confidentiality, and to always be on the alert for exploits coming from adversaries. So those companies who have innovative challenges, and Jonathan went through it, look, if we're seeing somebody who can be doing standard ICAM in a new way that's interesting to government, if you've got software solutions, if you've got sensing equipment or scanners, if you can do imaging in a particular way, if you've got cyber solutions and you're running artificial intelligence, machine learning that is going to help government, those are going to be things that are of interest. And of course, biometrics is oftentimes conflated with identity management in some of the mission spaces, so we've included that as well. The customer sets are going to probably include many different federal agencies. And so when you look at what's happening in late September, I think is the current time, our Security Innovation Challenge, those submissions are going to, for finalists, are going to be evaluated in late September over at National Harbor. I think the event is taking place in the Gaylord. So you're going to see a bunch of co-located summits and conferences that are affiliated with TechConnect. So I think you've got a small business innovation summit taking place, some DoD focused material. You got Resilience Week with a focus on critical infrastructure. Smart Cities Connect will be there, and that focuses on urban infrastructure, communications, and digital transformation. So this, the Shark Tank that we sort of run here, and right now we've got $25,000 pool. The way that we're thinking about it right now is maybe a 5x5, so $5,000 to 5 finalists. It'll kind of depend on the quality and number of the submissions that we get, how we break that pool up, but that's our objective right now to make it worthwhile for you all to be submitting. And then we'll have an opportunity for the finalists to basically display what it is that they're proposing as a solution for identity management when we get to the event. That's all I have for now, Laura. I appreciate it and turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you so much, Michael. If everyone can come on video, we will do some Q&A. So we'll give everyone a second to do that. Great, okay. Michael and Jonathan, I think, are gonna try to field a number of these questions. So we've gotten a few that have come in. And if you have questions, audience members, feel free to go ahead and ask them now. So I guess either of you could answer this, but Michael, maybe you and Ari could speak to whether services are in scope or only products. Can you talk a little bit more about the services aspect, whether any submissions that fall in that space are in scope, and if not, maybe expand a little bit on that piece.
I'm happy to answer that one. Yes, they are. So processes, technologies, hardware, software, things that basically bring a better economy to what you're trying to do with identity management is going to be attractive. And we're well aware that in services, sometimes the way in which those things are arranged and the way that companies go about doing that can be of huge value to the federal government. So the answer is yes, we include that as I would, when I'm thinking about services, I'm also thinking about processes and the way that that delivery occurs. So it's not just going to be about widgets or not just about software, but the way in which you do things is sometimes terribly important to DHS and to other federal customers. So we'd be very interested in seeing that, yeah.
Okay, great. You mentioned this a little bit, but another question is about component solutions. Can you speak about your interest in, maybe someone doesn't have an entire system figured out, but a component solution that might be plugged into something existing with DHS or another customer?
When we think about custom, or when we think about component solutions inside, particularly inside a consortium, those are going to be of interest to people because oftentimes somebody's got something special that's a part of that's a component part to a technology, it's a component part of a process, or it's a level of, it's a type of expertise that exists that can be exploited by teams getting together. In other transaction consortia, oftentimes what happens is you'll see people have the piece, they wish to participate, they may be small, they may be non-traditional, and they've got something good that is highly specialized. It doesn't have to be specialized, but it's something that is an important component part of an overall solution. When consortia get together and talk among the members, smalls get to talk to larges. That's one of the benefits of being a part of a consortia. Plus, you can be outside the kind of the rigor of a competition and be talking big to small to medium or to academic. And you can have your piece of a solution that may be important to a team's overall response to a call or to a solicitation for government. Those are going to be relevant to people. Obviously, the person making the inquiry knows the value of their thing. Other corporations, other companies, academics, and perhaps the departments themselves are going to recognize important pieces that are plugins or a part of a larger solution.
Great. One of our questions, and since you kind of mentioned membership and consortia, how do you become a member? So let's say an innovator wants to become one. What are the barriers to entry? Do they have to be a certain TRL level or a certain type of organization? What does that look like?
I would tell you that consortia are, I can't answer for all consortia. I can tell you that membership in consortia really depends on, are you focused on the area that the consortia is built around? So if you go online, if you do a mere Google search on other transaction consortia, you're going to get a lot of results that show you, oh, they're consortia for many different things: undersea warfare, border security technology, gosh, I mean, the Spectrum, CWMD. There are medical technologies. There are lots of consortia that are out there that you can participate in, and it's not just ATI necessarily, and it's not just HS Tech. It's a thing worth looking into. In terms of your quals for joining a consortia, I can't speak for other consortia. I can say for ours, and basically, are you serving DHS? Do you have a DUNS number, a US based corporation? Although that's not, you don't have to be US, you have to have other quals if you're or other sort of IRAD type paperwork has to be done for foreign companies to participate and to contract with government. But for the most part, I think the barriers to entry are not just low in terms of their cost, but for membership, it's generally, the intention is not to make membership small and elite and exclusive. It is to find people who are qualified, who can come into the space and then find their way around and look at solicitations and calls as they come out. So I think probably for most consortia, the objective is to be inclusive, especially of smalls that don't ordinarily are not able on their own to sort of answer these voluminous lead systems integrator type massive contracts. But and that's what's attractive, is because there is a significant amount of innovation taking place in the community of smalls that lots of people want to know about. It's just, how do we get there? How do we make it useful, or how do we create events like this one in order to draw them out and to get them to be looking at the federal government as a potential customer?
Mm-hmm.
I took a long time to say a very simple question, which is like, just check it out. You should be able to join.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. You kind of do mention a few forms, and there's some acronyms in there. For those who are non-traditional, who maybe have not been in this space, is there kind of a helper system? Is that something ATI or HS Tech provides that to help navigate through membership application, or anything you recommend if you don't really understand what those forms are all about?
Yeah, I think I'm an executive director for the consortium. The consortium management firm that oversees the activities, some of the activities of HS Tech. It's all pretty informal. It's just done by email. If you got questions, we can talk on the phone, or I'll put one of the technical staff in communication with you. The point is to be accessible. So it's not some sort of big fortress of people that you can't reach out to.
Great. Unlike in many cases government agencies, which are fortress-like in their setup. So
Very
this does
busy.
a great end. Yeah. And I think on that same topic, one of our questions is about the judges and the people in the room. Can you speak a little bit about who will be reviewing both the finalist pitches? Maybe Jonathan, you can speak to that. And then also who's going to be reviewing on-site in the fall. If Michael, you can share a bit about that.
Sure.
So, Jonathan,
so for the pitches in the fall, you're going to be looking at, as I said, people from industry, investment, and government representatives. So from the government bucket, that could be anybody from municipalities up to representatives from various federal agencies who are going to be on site. From in the investment bucket, that could be technology accelerators, could be SBIR representatives, STTR representatives, it could be venture capital representatives. And industry, that is obviously pretty straightforward. It's going to be people who are working potentially in a computer science space. It could be people who are working specifically in identity management, but they've chosen not to participate in the challenge. It could be people who are hardware developers as well. So you're going to have a good broad range of individuals who are going to be listening to the pitches in the fall.
And then just really quickly for for finalist screening, are we looking at a similar? I know that we'll have HS Tech involved in that, and also Tech Connect involved in that. Is there anyone else that folks should be aware of, just to screen for the initial finalist stage?
There will also be trying to think. There's a couple of individuals I'm thinking of, and their names are completely gone from my brain at this moment. You're going to be looking at, as Laura said, representatives from ATI, individuals such as myself, people from the consortium who are going to be looking at the submissions that are coming in. It's going to be a similar group, but a smaller group of people who are going to be going through the initial submissions to choose finalists.
Okay, great. And Michael, you have a little bit more insight into the specific on-site judges. I know we're beginning to uncover some of those. but how would you categorize them? You know, are they mostly federal? Are they mostly consortium? Who are those folks who will be on site?
We want to have both. So we want to have people who are linked to commercial success inside the federal government, and we also want to have government operators. Chances are, because of the way that the rules work, we will not have active federal employees doing evaluations as judges. We will probably have some people in there who are federally employed right now who can ask questions, but they're not necessarily, they can't render judgment. In terms of the people who are judges, the characteristics that we're looking for and we're getting, because there's a significant amount of interest among some folks in being judges, is people who have a lot of experience inside the federal government on the commercial and in the commercial side, people who have run offices, had large federal responsibilities. They're veteran people. So my expectation is among the folks that we would be putting in for judges, you're probably going to have, I don't know, 150 years of experience there. So the other thing is temperamentally easygoing, there to be helpful, to answer questions and to help people along. You can say Shark Tank, and we all kind of know what that means. That can be a little bit intimidating. That's not going to be the intention here. Instead, judges are going to be asking questions of people who are participants as finalists, like just trying to elucidate how it's going to help the government and what their approach is. The good thing about that audience is that that's a very, very broad audience. It's not just going to be confined to DHS folk. It's not just going to be confined to government or to commercial. There will be all kinds of people that will be there paying attention and listening. We'll do our very best to attract as many of those summit and conference participants who are going around the Gaylord to come in and to listen to our finalists basically sell their product.
Great.
The one thing that I'll add is that if you are selected as a finalist and you are preparing your presentation for that pitch event, because of the wide-ranging backgrounds and experiences of not just the judges who are going to be evaluating submissions, but also the other individuals in the room, you're going to want to keep that in mind when you're building out your response. Don't get into the really nitty-gritty details about it. You're going to have a lot of different experiences in that room, so keep it engaging and compelling, but don't really drill down into the details for it, because not everybody is going to be a specialist in that particular area. You want it to be as engaging and broad as possible.
Yeah, you want to bring the business case as well as the technology specifications. Right. I think that's important. But we will fortunately announce the judges prior, so you will know who will be in the room, and you can take that information in. Can you speak, you've mentioned not to put anything that's proprietary into your application. So, there's prize money associated. Can you speak again about, are there strings attached to this prize money? And if so, what are they?
Well, broadly speaking, the prize money is non-dilutive. The exact structure of how the prize pool gets divided up is still being worked out. As Michael said, it'll depend on quantity and quality of the submissions that come in. As far as
but Jonathan, we'll go no lower than $5,000.
Okay, right? Fantastic.
Yeah.
As far as what to include and avoiding proprietary information, if there's content, this is going to sound really obvious, but I'll say it anyway. If you've got content that you have prepared already in whatever form, and it's already labeled as confidential, don't give that to us. Invariably, in doing challenges like this, somebody will inadvertently include information that is quite literally labeled as confidential information. Don't do that. Likewise, if you're sharing information that you don't want to share outside of a confidentiality agreement, don't put it in. If it's information that may not be exactly confidential in nature, but is so highly enabling that somebody could reverse engineer or help them along too far in the process to your secret sauce, don't include it. You want to stay at that high level introductory level. You don't want to dig into the details too much at this particular stage.
Right,
Hopefully
but so the reason for not including that is not because we are expecting anyone to turn over IP. That is not
Right.
attached to the funding. So,
Right, exactly.
right, so it's
As I,
non-dilutive, meaning no strings attached. When you get a check, you get a check. It's yours to spend how you'd like to. It's not. There's no reporting. There's no turning over of your own, work or IP. Right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't want you to share your IP with us because we don't need it for this particular purpose. So you keep it where it needs to be.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. So I think we want to, if anyone has any final questions, please put them in the questions box. But I want to ask if you had one piece of advice to give applicants now, given that they've still got a couple of weeks to apply, what is your best advice for them to submit, for both of you, to answer this, to submit a winning application, knowing that you're kind of on the inside here?
Okay. If I could distill it down to one word, enthusiasm. You know the ins and outs of your technology. You know what it can do. You know the best use cases for it. You know the advantages of your technology. Bring that enthusiasm, first and foremost, obviously, to your response. You can tell when you're reading a response that is written by somebody who has a great deal of enthusiasm for their technology. It comes across the page. It really, really does. So you want to bring all of that enthusiasm in your response. If you kind of seem ho-hum and frankly bored with your technology, it's going to come across, and that's not going to be engaging. That's not going to be compelling. Likewise, if you're selected as a finalist, bring that enthusiasm to your presentation. We know you're going to be excited to be there because, quite frankly, Defense Tech Connect is kind of a fun place to be, but bring your enthusiasm to the event. Show the judges and the people in the room that you know all the ins and outs of your technology, and you know why your technology is the best for that particular application. So enthusiasm.
Great. Michael, what would you say? What's your piece of advice?
I don't think I can really improve on that. It's nice to see people getting excited about what they're submitting, and that helps people understand the use case for operators. I would say there are a host of really important missions taking part in the federal government, or that are always part of the federal mission space. When you're bringing things that are going to potentially help the United States basically protect its national security and to aid in the federal government doing a good job to support its operators, that's the kind of thing that gets us excited. A lot of the people associated with HS Tech are former DHS people or have long service in the federal government, and who have done a significant amount of public service, who are very interested in assisting operators in the mission. That's one thing that is consistently sort of part of the story of Consortia, is we're trying to make things better for those people who are still on the line and still answering mission challenges. Our focus is on them. So you think about ATI is a 501c3 public benefits company as the consortium management firm. There are a lot of folks there that when we start talking, we're asking ourselves, is this helping those operators who are under a significant amount of pressure, deadlines, whatever's coming at them? We want to help them get a solution that's going to work for them. And we want to be able to deliver it to them rapidly. And we want to be able to talk to them while we do it, so that we're saving time and money and getting to answer that operational need that they have. That's kind of how consortia people think. So to the extent you can articulate that in any submission that you might be making for this challenge, I encourage you to bring that into it too. How are we bringing economies, speed, and supporting mission.
Great, wonderful. Well, I want to thank everyone who's joined us here today, and for those who will view this later as we get closer to the deadline. As you know, the June 30th deadline is very real. You have plenty of time to submit, but it is going to come fast upon us. So get your entry in early, ask questions. We're here to help you. If you have any questions and you're not sure who to reach out to that you'd like answered, you can email me. My email address is Laura, Laura, @techconnect.org. And I will connect you with the right person. And we're just very excited to see what you have to showcase to HS Tech and federal agencies affiliated and around this challenge. And so good luck to all of you, and we'll see you hopefully in DC this fall.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.